a lot of this intuitive training, this kind of like auto regulation comes down to maturity and experience. And it's very hard for people that are kind of coming onto the scene for the first time, coming onto this kind of training lifestyle to understand some of these concepts. Like a lot of the conversations I have is, mate, what are you doing for your reps and sets, and what are you doing for exercises, blah, 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 all this type of stuff. And, you know, even though like, you know, I want to say what I did in today's session or yesterday's session or whatever the session we're talking about, I feel like it's the wrong thing to say to some of you guys who are asking me this, because it's not a matter of reps and sets and frequency or whatever the case. It's about principles and it's about philosophy. One thing that I'm thinking about right now, it's kind of like you're the coach, right? You're coaching basketball or soccer, whatever the case might be, and you're playing different teams all the time. Every single game you're playing a different team. And so you might have like an understanding of how you want to play. You like playing 4-4-2 in football, or you like playing inside-out basketball. We're going to dump it to the big man. He's going to draw a double team. We're going to kick it out, swing the ball, and hit the corner tray, right? So that's how you want to play. But what if you come into a position where you throw the ball into the big man, into your big man, your superstar big man, and they don't send a double team? And the best player on the other team is another big man, and all of a sudden it's a one-on-one struggle, right? And your best player is being outplayed by this other guy. So what are you going to do? You're going to keep dumping it into your best player. He's always going to get shut down every single play. There's no double team coming, and you're stuck, right? So you can do that, and you're going to get stuck. You're going to hit a plateau, right? You're going to lose. A really good coach in that scenario will make adjustments. So we can favor our superstar player, so we can still kind of get our player to do good things on the court, or get another player to do something else, right? So that's part of coaching. Or in football, you like playing, 4-3-3, and you like high pressing, but all of a sudden you're playing a team that has really good, tiki-taka kind of football, and they're breaking you down, they're breaking your press down. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to keep pressing and exposing your back, and they're running past your last defender, and all of a sudden it's always like counter-attacking football. You're going to make a decision. You have to change to whatever position you're facing. Sometimes your base strategy is always going to work, and you're going to win most games. But sometimes you're going to have to make adjustments. So we see that in sports all the freaking time. If you want to talk about tennis, you're playing against a guy who has a really good serve. What are you going to do? You're going to try and get that ball back no matter what, right? And then as soon as you get that ball back, doesn't really matter what quality it is, you're going to probably outplay him during the match. If the rally goes beyond 3 hits, you've got him. So it's kind of, you always have to kind of plan for the opposition that you have in front of you. Kind of like that. So intuitive training is like that. So if you wake up a certain day and you're feeling a set of symptoms, say you're feeling really tight in the hips, there's no point you going back to your base template of what you wanted to do that day, because your position has changed. You're dealing with certain different symptoms. So you can apply that same stuff, superimpose it onto those new symptoms, but you're not going to get the same effects. This is where my struggle with rigid programming comes from, because you're dealing with biology, you're dealing with different oppositions all the time. It's just the way it is. And for people that don't react, for people that don't change their strategy mid-flight, mid-game, or game to game, guess what? They don't win that many games. Some of the greatest coaches in sporting history have been those guys who can make changes. We often talk about in the NBA, the playoffs are all about, or finals, playoffs are all about matchups. And so even though you might have like a 70-win team, they might not match up really well against a 40-win team. All of a sudden, it's a matchup nightmare, and the 70-win team loses because they're just poorly matched. And so it comes down to like coaching decisions, strategy, and how to break down each other. I remember a few years ago when the Cavaliers were playing the Warriors. Basically, every single time they were going down the court, they were trying to isolate. They were pick and rolling and whatnot, trying to get Steph Curry on the ball defending against Kyrie Irving, against LeBron James, or something like that. So they would basically just keep switching it up, keep screening until they get Steph Curry, and then all of a sudden, the weakest defender on the Warriors team is defending the best offensive player in the Cavaliers team. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to adjust on the fly. Today, for me, I woke up and I just felt stiff. I just felt stiff. The moment I woke up and started walking around, I was like, okay, I've got some problems today. Maybe that abductor machine, I did too many sets. Maybe the front squats, I did too many sets. Maybe the core's jacked up, and there's a whole bunch of compensation mechanisms happening. I basically need to kind of not go as hard. Today I wanted to do pin squats. Today I wanted to do back squats. I wanted to do all these different things, but the symptoms that I had a different opposition at hand. So I can't have the same game plan. So I adjusted. As soon as I walked in, I went straight for the accessory work. I did some hip flexor work. You saw that already. Worked up to 180 kilos times 1. That kind of felt crap. I watched the video several times and I can see what's happening, and it's not good movement for me. I get down to the hole. It's a very slow descent. And when I feel that it's a really slow descent, I basically I can see that I'm not trusting my body underneath me. When my lift starts slowing down, I'm not feeling poppy, right? It's opposite of poppy. So slow descent, go down, very, very, very mild kind of pop out of the hole. Once again, not a good indicator. And then what I see is that my vertical shins start kicking in. So my shins go back, my knees go back, and becomes a good morning squat. It's very subtle, but for somebody like me that squats every day, and I have basically a feeling day to day of how the squat is feeling, it's very palpable to me. I really feel the difference when the movement is not being done correctly. For me, when I hit 210, when I hit 200s on good days and the bar flies up, it's those days where I can get my hips under the bar, where my kind of torso is more vertical. Those are the days I feel really strong. I can send my legs under the bar and kind of leg press it up. But that requires mobility, right? When my hips are jacked up, my ankles are going to be jacked up. And for some of you guys, it doesn't make sense how that works. But I've got one word for you to explain this. Fascia. If my hips get jacked up, it pulls on fascia in a certain way, which translates to tension into other areas of the body, i.e. the hamstrings, then the calves, and then it locks up my Achilles, and voila, I don't have dorsiflexion. On the good days where I have really good hip mobility, my dorsiflexion is excellent, I can send my knees forward, I can get underneath the bar feels really light. It's basically like clockwork for me. So, just like good coaches like Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, Phil Jackson, Larry Brown, all these greats of the NBA, they have the ability to adjust. They have the ability to kind of pick good matchups, expose the weaknesses of the opposition, make the correct call. And so the correct call in weightlifting is the same thing. It's the same thing in all sports, basically. Every single day, you're presented with certain different circumstances. You have to adjust. If you are immature and you are boneheaded and you want to listen to some of the hardest hardcore voices in some of this fitness community, you're going to try and send your skull through a brick wall. Biology doesn't work that way. Even though I love listening to some of these characters that pump you up, you feel like you want to run through a brick wall. Sometimes, after years of experience and maturity, you realize that there are some symptoms you can't fight against. There are some situations you can't fight against. When Shaq pins you down and sends that elbow into your skull, you can't do anything. You can't do anything. You can't stop Shaq. Okay? So you need to adjust your game. How do you adjust the game? Well, we're going to make Shaq run up and down, up and down. We're going to speed up the game. This is what the NBA is doing right now. All these big dudes are getting subbed out because all of a sudden there's like a high possession game. Everyone's jacking up shots within 5 seconds of the shot clock. What does that mean for Shaq? He's going to have to run up and down, up and down. So most of the time he's spending basically in the middle of the court. Not effective for him. So if you're playing against Shaq, let's start running. Put like small freaking 5, put the smallest starting 5 and start running up and down. Counter basketball, up and down, up and down. Shaq's going to get exhausted. He's not going to have freaking time to breathe. So I'm using all these analogies from different sports to explain that this is what weightlifting is about. This is what this sport is about. What I love about my journey and what's kind of taken me and fueled me for so long is that I'm treating this like a chef, like a Phil Jackson, like a Larry Brown, like a Pep Guardiola, Mourinho. I basically wake up every morning, warm up, right? So I don't make my call from the couch. I'm like, today's a shit day. I'm not going to go train because it's just crap. I literally go to the gym, I get under the bar, do a first couple of sets, and I'm like, okay, the mental fog is gone. I clearly see what I'm working with today. today's not a good day to start loading 100% on my 1 rep max. Because if I do that, there's a high chance of injury. I'm not in optimal positions. That doesn't mean you go home. That's start to work and fight some of these symptoms. So a really good coach is able to sprinkle some salt when you need some salt, sprinkle some pepper when you need some pepper. Oh, I reckon my hip flexors are really jacked up today. Let's do some hip flexor work. But it takes a certain amount of experience to make that call. And this is where this father time comes in. You can't replace the teachings of time. You can read every single book in the world, but unless you've dealt with some things, you're not going to know exactly what's going on. Anyway, that's what's on my mind today. Kind of a crappier session, but I'm proud that I made the calls that I made, and I'm sitting here uninjured because, 5-6 years ago, Ivan will be sitting here with some hip pain because I was like, screw it, I want to hit 200 today. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.